Are you excited about the Mayhem event, but still have no idea how to utilize it properly? Don't worry, I've got you covered. I'm Cyclon, and today I want to share my strategy stack, so that means my set of strategies for the Mayhem League that I think are the best way to get to level 95 very quickly. Now, before I'm going to get into what Mayhem is and what my strategies are at what stage of the game, very quickly. Usually, I put a link to, in the description, there is a link to my spreadsheet where I have everything detailed and I have detailed drops. But because this is going into strategy rather than a confirmed strategy that I've proven with loot and make an expected loot, I can not make that on my spreadsheet. Instead, I went on my Discord, I made a channel for my strategy where you can find the different trees and also a quick overview about the scarab and masters you want to use at what stage. So if you're looking for the strategy, don't be confused if it's not on the spreadsheet. It's going to be on the Discord, which as well you can find in my description. Alright, enough talk about that. Let's take a look at what Mayhem is. Mayhem is going to be the first of 3 November events. And it's going to make each instance, which can be either the zoning campaign or a map, contain a specific encounter for 1 hour. Now, because it's going to set a specific amount to that, for example, it can contain 20 harbingers, you cannot increase the amount of harbingers to 21 or above with scarabs or the Atlas passive tree, which is confirmed by GGG. So we don't need to focus on getting increased amount with scarabs or with Atlas tree. We just need to enhance the experience for the specific encounter. Also, other than the 20 Harbinger stuff that you can encounter are 20 Rogue Exiles, 20 Strong Boxes, 10 Breaches, or 20 Invasion Bosses, as well as 20 Tormented Spirits, a Mirror of Delirium, or Beyond for the instance. So, with that knowledge, what can we focus on to get the most out of Mayhem? For the campaign, there are 3 things in my opinion that you want to focus on. We want to focus on Rogue Exile, starting at Rogue Harbor and level 60 to get Chaos Recipe. They should drop a lot of the currency, a lot of rares, and a lot of jewelry, which then can fuel your Chaos Recipe for the rest of the event. We're going to want to focus on strong boxes to get a lot of gear, a lot of crafting currency, quality currency, as well as some maps in the later parts of the campaign and early maps. And we want to focus on Harbinger to get a good amount of XP boost. The way we want to do this is once we are level 60 and we find a zone that has rogue exiles, utilize that and just farm rogue exiles for like 20 minutes, half an hour, until you have a quad tab full of chaos recipe stuff, mostly being the jewelry, so belts, rings, and amulets. After that, or while that, if you also find an area that has strong boxes and you're still looking for specific uniques that are from strong boxes or gear, farm that for like 10-20 minutes. And if you are needing XP before you want to kill Kitava or before you want to continue into maps, you can also look for a good layout that contains Harbinger to get a big XP boost. Now, after campaign, we get into the early maps. In the early maps, we want to focus on map sustain the most. We already have a ton of enemies going to be in our maps, but we need the way to enhance them. So we're going to first get that the maps drop a tier higher by getting the shaping of the valley, of the mountains, of the seas, and so on. I forgot the fourth name. We're going to get the Kirik nodes to do the Kirik skip. But those who do not know what the Kirik skip is, once you get into red maps, you're going to get a Kirik mission. It's going to guarantee it to be a T16. If you get that mission and get any map there dropped, you're going to have a T16 map and can now try to sustain on the T16 map, which with the amount of mayhem enemies shouldn't be too hard. Another thing is that he's going to refresh this shop for red maps, which will also possibly contain T16 maps. So we can jump from T11 all the way to T16. It also works on white and yellow missions, but those are usually progressed very quickly, so we focus a Kirik step on the red mission step. After we have our map sustain and our Kirik mission, we want to get Exiled Will so that every rogue exile we encounter to be possessed, meaning more rare items, meaning more quantity, meaning more chaos recipe in case we don't have enough chaos recipe yet, and we want to get temper proofed and syndicate operative, or however this node is called, to get strong boxes with scarabs to get a bit of extra currency, which we can sell or use. Or well, the scarabs we can sell for currency or use to get more out of them. Or we want to use tamper proof so that they are corrupted and rare, so we already have them qualified and then can just click and open them. Afterward, we want to get the Harbinger node here to get our Harbingers to spawn our enemies faster, and here to get the Harbingers to have the chance to be the big Harbinger. And we want to get Flash Breach because 10 breaches can take quite some time, and with this they're going to take a lot faster. Now, this should get you 2 red maps. The only thing I want to mention here as well is that if you take this node, it's purely optional because we're already going to get a lot of stuff from the exiles when they are possessed with exiled will. We don't really need this, but we can take this to get even more rares from the exiles. Alright, getting into the T16 maps. We want to focus on the Zeroing Exile influence because it's a bit safer than the Eater of Worlds influence. We want to get packed with energy because it's going to give us free max res, free movement speed, and free damage. Just using a Sulfite Scarab. We want to use Gatekeeper so then we can counter a Breach Lot. He's going to drop double Splinters. And we want to also get this 1 to 2 Watchstones so we can block. So we can use either Breaches belonging to Chayula when we find a good map where we have 4, 8, or 12 of. That is going to be with Breaches, or we want to have enraged strongbox monsters are enraged and 500 quantity when we find a map that we have 4, 8, or 12 of that has a good divination card, such as Patient, Nurse, or maybe even an Apothecary, or any divination card that we can make a bit of currency with, or that we can utilize to maybe get a 6-link, for example, Imperial Legacy on Dunes. And then we can also take mechanic blockers. However, as mentioned beforehand, because we are wanting to utilize the set amount mechanics, like the Harbingers, the Rogue Exiles, or the Breaches and the Strongboxes, we don't really need to block mechanics, but if you have spare points, you can put them there, or you can get the Delirium Reel, which is going to be nice when you get random Deliriums. We also want to take these 2 nodes, so we can stack up on John and Alva missions, which we're going to want for the later part. Now at this point, you're likely already going to be in your level 90s if your character wasn't too squishy. If it was, don't worry, we got that covered in a moment. Before we're going to get the last 2 covers, before we're going to cover the hyper-juiced and the hyper-juiced experience part, I'm going to be streaming the Friday and the Saturday for Mayhem on Twitch. I'm going to leave a link to my Twitch in the description if you want to join me and tell me your experience with the strategies, or if you have any questions, you can ask me while I'm being streamed live on Twitch. That being said, let's take a look at the high investment currency one. So here we want to focus our currency. We're going to take all breaches beyond Chayula or strongbox monsters are enraged based on the map we find that has guaranteed breaches or guaranteed strongboxes. It's the same principle. We find a good map that's going to have a good layout for breaches and that contains 10 breaches. Or we find a good map like Crimson Temple that is going to have a divination card we want and that has strongboxes guaranteed. Then we're going to utilize our second watchstone, which at this point you should very likely have 2 watchstones, one from the Seeing Exarch and one from the Eater of Worlds. So you can add Delirium Mirror as one sextant and either the Chayula Breaches or the Enraged Strongbox as the other one. And you can use Alva as your master mission to have a really long Delirium Mirror and a lot of loot and a lot of experience on the side. But if it's too hard for you, don't worry. Again, there is a different strategy for getting the experience. This is to get all the currency we need to gear up our character to the brim, maybe even get a headhunter in the duration of the 10 days. As potential scarabs, we can use Legion if we have an inspired learning, or if we want to do some god touched hunting. We can use Abyss because of all the breaches and strongboxes. The Delirium Mirror should be endless, so we can utilize Abyss. If it has a strongbox, we should also very heavily consider using a Divination Scarab. And we can use a Reliquary Scarab if we use either of the other 2, so that our breaches are even more, so our god touched are even more juiced. All that being said, this is really good for currency, but how are we going to get our experience? Well, if there is no good layout for the currency part, we can just look for any maps that contains Harbinger and spec out very quickly about the strongbox part here, and instead take the Harbinger nodes And just one very quick Harbinger maps, also adding Jund to get safe houses, because safe houses are a very great source of experience. And all that together should set you up very easily to get in like 4 or 5 days, depending on how much time you spend per day to play, and you should be able to get to 95 very quickly. All that being said, have a wonderful day and hopefully a lot of luck into the Mayhem League. Goodbye.